You don't belong in first class, and you certainly don't belong on my plane. The sound of ripping paper silenced the entire gate area at O'Hare Airport. Everyone watched in horror as a seasoned gate agent tore a young black woman's boarding pass into confetti, smirking as she called security to have her trespasser removed. But that agent, Bella, made one fatal calculation. She didn't know the woman in the hoodie wasn't just a passenger. She was Marina Sterling, the newly appointed CEO of the entire airline. And what happened next wasn't justice. It was a masterclass in karma that would change the company forever. Stick around. You won't believe the twist. Ending. The fluorescent hum of Chicago. O'Hare's Terminal 3 was a sound Marina Sterling had known her entire life. But usually she experienced it from the quiet luxury of the Admiral's Club or the back of a private car. Today was different. Today Marina was invisible. At 28, Marina was an anomaly in the aviation world. She had just been named the interim CEO of Meridian Airways, following the sudden ousting of the previous board due to plummeting stock prices and horrific customer service ratings. The press release had gone out that morning, but it only featured a stiff, professional headshot of her in a blazer, hair pulled back. Right now, standing in line for Flight 3892, Miami, she looked nothing like that. Photo. She wore a generic gray hoodie, black leggings, and Converse sneakers. Her hair was in loose braids, and she carried a battered backpack that she used for gym gear. She wasn't Marina Sterling, the Wharton graduate and corporate shark. She was just Marina, a passenger in economy minus. Her mission was simple. Project ground level. The board wanted to cut costs. Marina wanted to know why Meridian was bleeding loyal customers. She needed to see the rot from the inside. Next, a voice barked, cutting through the terminal noise like a whip crack. Marina stepped forward toward the podium. At gate K12, the gate agent, whose name tag read Bella, looked to be in her late 50s, with frosted blonde hair sprayed into a helmet of immobility and a mouth set in a permanent sneer. Bella didn't look up. She was aggressively typing on her keyboard, her long acrylic nails clicking like hail on a tin roof. "Good morning," Marina said, softly, sliding her printed boarding pass across the counter. Bella stopped typing. She didn't respond. She took a slow sip of her lukewarm coffee, adjusted her glasses, and finally deigned to look at Marina. Her eyes performed a swift, judgmental scan, starting at the sneakers, lingering on the hoodie, and ending on Marina's face with a look of undisguised disdain. "Passport," Bella demanded. "Hand out, palm up." Marina handed it over. Bella flipped it open, looking from the photo to Marina and back again. She squinted. "This photo looks enhanced. You look different." "I was wearing makeup in the photo," Marina said calmly. "It's me," Bella huffed, a sound of pure skepticism. She scanned the passport and the machine beeped. Green. Everything was in order. But Bella wasn't satisfied. She stared at the screen of her computer, her brow furrowing. "You're in seat 34B, middle seat," Bella asked, her voice loud enough for the business travelers in the priority lane to hear. "Yes, that's correct. And you have a carry-on?" Bella leaned over the podium, peering at the backpack slung over Marina's shoulder. "That looks oversized. You need to check it." $55. Marina shifted the weight of the bag. "It fits the dimensions, ma'am." Clears throat. "I checked the sizer before I got in line. It's actually smaller than the limit." "Don't argue with me," Bella snapped, her face flushing slightly. "I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what fits and what doesn't. You people always try to sneak massive bags onto my plane." Card. Marina felt a prickle of heat on her neck. "You people." She kept her expression neutral. This was exactly what she was here to find. "I'm not trying to sneak anything. If you'd like, I can put it in the sizer right now." Marina pointed to the metal cage sitting 3 feet away. Bella slammed her hand on the counter. "I don't have time for games. The flight is full. And space is premium. You are checking that bag or you are not getting on this flight." Behind Marina, the line was growing restless. A businessman in a suit checked his Rolex, and sighed loudly. Come on, let's go. Marina took a breath. She had the power to fire this woman on the spot. She could pull out her corporate ID, demand to see the station manager, and end Bella's career before the coffee in her cup went cold. But that wouldn't solve the systemic issue. She needed to see how far Bella would go. Here, Marina said, pulling out her personal credit card, not the corporate black card. I'll pay the fee. Bella smirked, a victorious curl of the lip. That was ugly to witness. Thought so. She snatched the card, ran it, and slapped the receipt on the counter. Zone 5, wait over there. We're boarding first class and Diamond members only right now. Marina took her receipt and her passport. Thank you, Bella. Bella's head snapped up. It's Miss Vance to you. Step aside. Marina walked over to the waiting area, her heart pounding, not from fear, but from a simmering cold anger. She sat down next to an elderly woman who was clutching a cane. She's a terror, isn't she? The old woman whispered. I saw her make a mother throw away her baby's milk bottle earlier because she said it looked suspicious. Marina turned to the woman. She did. What? Oh, yes. The woman nodded, leaning in. Her name is Mrs. Higgins. I fly this route to see my grandkids. Bella is always here. She picks someone every flight. Today, it looks like it's you, dear. Marina tightened her grip on her boarding pass. Why doesn't anyone report her? Mrs. Higgins sighed. People do. But the manager, Rick, he's her brother-in-law or cousin, something like that. Complaints go into the trash. Meridian Airways doesn't care about us. Meridian Airways doesn't care. The words stung Marina more than the insults. This was her father's legacy. This was the company she had fought to lead. We'll see about that, Marina whispered. Just then the intercom crackled. Now inviting Group 1, our first-class passengers to board. Marina watched as the suits filed past. Bella was all smiles now, transforming into a sickeningly sweet concierge. Good morning, Mr. Henderson. Welcome back, Mrs. Tate. Oh, lovely scarf. The duality was jarring. It wasn't that. Bella was grumpy. She was selective. She was a predator who chose her victims based on perceived weakness. As the boarding groups were called, Marina waited. Finally, Group 5, all remaining passengers. Marina stood up, slinging her now checked backpack, which Bella had tagged, but not actually taken, forcing Marina to gate check it at the jet bridge door. Over her shoulder, she approached the podium again to scan her pass. Bella was chatting with a tall, burly man in a yellow vest, Rick Salinger, the shift manager. Marina recognized the name from the HR complaints file she had reviewed the night before. As Marina reached the scanner, the machine beeped a loud, angry red tone. Her wonder. Bella looked down, then up at Marina. Her smile vanished instantly. Step back, Bella commanded. What's the problem? Marina asked. I paid for the bag. I have. My seat. Ticket's invalid, Bella said, loudly, playing to the audience of passengers still waiting to board. Looks like your payment didn't clear for the seat itself. Fraudulent card, maybe. My card is fine, Marina said, her voice hardening. I bought this ticket 2 weeks ago. Rick, the manager, stepped forward, crossing his arms over his chest. He was chewing gum with an open mouth. Is there a problem here, Ms. Pants? This passenger is trying to board with a voided ticket, Rick, and she was aggressive earlier about the baggage fee. Rick looked at Marina. He didn't see a CEO. He saw a young black woman in a hoodie. Ma'am, you need to step out of the line. You're blocking boarding. I am not stepping anywhere until you tell me why my ticket is void, Marina stated, planting her feet. Bella let out a dramatic laugh. Oh, we have a resistor, Rick. She's causing a scene. I am not causing a scene, Marina said, raising her voice slightly so the nearby passengers could hear. I am a paying customer with a valid ticket. You are targeting me. Check the system again. Bella's eyes narrowed. She leaned over the counter, her face inches from Marina's. Listen, honey, I decide who gets on this bird, and I don't like your attitude. You think because you scrape together a few bucks for a cheap seat You can run my gate? Bella reached out, snatched the boarding pass from Marina's hand, and held it up. You want to get on board? Bella sneered, and then with a slow, deliberate motion, Bella tore the boarding pass in half, then into quarters. She dropped the pieces onto the floor like trash. Oops, Bella said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Looks like you don't have a ticket anymore. Security. The sound of the paper tearing seemed to echo in the sudden silence of gate K-12. For a moment, nobody moved. The passengers in the jet bridge tunnel stopped and turned around. The people in line behind Marina gasped. Mrs. Higgins, the elderly woman from the waiting area, stood up, clutching her cane. You can't do that, Mrs. Higgins cried out, her voice shaking. She paid for that ticket. I saw her. Sit down, Grandma. Bella barked, not even looking at her. She kept her eyes locked on Marina, waiting for the explosion. She wanted Marina to scream. She wanted Marina to throw a punch. That would justify everything. But Marina didn't scream. She looked down at the confetti of her boarding pass on the dirty blue carpet, then slowly lifted her gaze to Bella. Marina's face was eerily calm, a mask of cold, calculated fury. Pick it up, Marina said quietly. Bella blinked. Excuse me. Pick it up, Marina repeated, her voice steady, but carrying an authority that made Rick, the manager, shift uncomfortably. You just destroyed federal travel documents and the personal property of a passenger. I am giving you one chance to pick it up and reprint my pass. Bella laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. She looked at Rick. You hear this? She's threatening me now. Rick stepped in, puffing out his chest. All right, that's enough. Mom, you're denied boarding. You need to leave the secure area immediately, or I'm calling the airport. Police. Call them, Marina challenged. In fact, I insist. Call them right now. Rick hesitated. He wasn't used to passengers welcoming the police. Usually, they begged, cried, or ran. Clear his throat, he grabbed his radio. Dispatch, we have a disruptive passenger at K-12 refusing to leave. Need immediate assistance. While they waited, the atmosphere at the gate turned toxic. Bella, feeling empowered by Rick's backup, decided to twist the knife. She grabbed the microphone for the PA system. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay in boarding, Bella announced, her voice booming through the speakers. We have a disruptive passenger who is refusing to follow security protocols. We prioritize your safety above all else and will remove the threat shortly. She pointed a long acrylic nail directly at Marina as she said threat. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. Some people were filming with their phones. Is she dangerous? Someone whispered. She doesn't look like a terrorist. Another replied. She probably just didn't pay. A man grumbled. Marina stood her ground, pulling out her own phone. Clear's throat. She wasn't recording a TikTok. She was opening the internal Meridian Airways executive app. It was a hidden interface accessible only to the SOIT and board. She logged in with her thumbprint. The screen flashed. Welcome, Clear's Throat CEO, Sterling. She navigated to the manifest. For Flight 389. She saw the notification. Next to her seat. 34B status canceled. By Agent B. Vance. Reason. Pax abusive. No show. Liar. Marina whispered. 2 airport police officers came jogging down the concourse. One was older Sergeant Miller, and the other was a rookie. They looked serious, hands resting near their belts. What's the problem here? Sergeant Miller asked, looking between Rick and Marina. She's trespassing, Bella said quickly, jumping ahead of Rick. She became aggressive when I told her bag was too big. She started swearing at me, threatened to come over the counter. I voided her ticket for safety reasons, and now she refuses to leave. The sergeant turned to Marina. Mom, is this true? No, officer, Marina said. I have witnesses. This agent demanded a bribe, effectively a fee for a bag that fits the sizer. I paid it. Then she voided my ticket out of spite and tore it up in my face. You can check the cameras. The cameras at this gate are down for maintenance. Rick lied smoothly. Just happened this morning. Marina's eyes snapped to Rick. Another lie. She knew for a fact the IT upgrade for Terminal 3 had been completed last week. The cameras were 4K and fully operational. Sergeant Miller sighed. He looked tired. Look, Mom, airlines are private companies. If they deny you boarding, you have to leave. You can take it up with customer service later. But right now, if you don't walk away, I have to arrest you for trespassing. I am not leaving, Marina said. I need to get on this flight. It is critical that I be in Miami for a meeting at Meridian headquarters. You aren't going to any meeting, honey. Bella scoffed. You're going to jail. Last chance, Mom, the sergeant said, pulling out handcuffs. Marina looked at the handcuffs. Then she looked at the passengers recording her. This was the moment. She could stop it now. She could reveal who she was. But if she did that, Bella would just get a slap on the wrist. Rick would claim ignorance. The culture of the airline wouldn't change. She needed to experience the full weight of the injustice. To understand what her customers were suffering, she needed them to bury themselves completely. Marina turned around and put her hands behind her back. Do what you have to do. A gasp went through the crowd. She's actually getting arrested. That's messed up. Just comply, someone shouted. The metal cuffs clicked tight around Marina's wrists. The cold steel bit into her skin. Bella was beaming. She actually clapped her hands together. Once, a sharp sound of triumph. Finally, get her out of here so the decent people can board. As the officers began to march Marina away from the gate, she locked eyes with Bella one last time. You have made a mistake, Miss Vance, Marina said calmly over her shoulder. A very expensive one. Bella waved her hand dismissively. Yeah, tell it to the judge. Bye-bye. Marina was led down the concourse. The shame of the handcuffs burning her skin. People stared. Mothers pulled their children closer. She was being paraded like a criminal in the very airport her company dominated. But as they passed the entrance to the jet bridge, the pilot of Flight 389, Captain David Anderson, stepped out to grab a coffee. He was a senior captain, 20 years with Meridian. He paused, holding his cup, watching the police escort a prisoner away. He looked at the prisoner. He saw the hoodie. Then, he saw the face. Captain Anderson froze. He had been at the gala dinner 3 nights ago, the introductory dinner for the new CEO. He had shaken her hand. He knew that face. He dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, splattering hot liquid everywhere. But he didn't notice. Stop, Captain, Anderson shouted, running toward the police officers. Stop right there. Bella, who was watching from the podium, rolled her eyes. Oh, great. Now what? Captain, we're just clearing the trash. Captain Anderson ignored her. He sprinted up to Sergeant Miller and placed a hand on his chest. Officer, stop. Do not take another step. Captain. The officer looked confused. She's a trespasser. Trespasser. The captain looked at Marina, who was standing quietly, handcuffed, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers. He looked back at the officer, his face pale. Officer, unhand her immediately, the captain ordered, his voice trembling, with a mix of fear and awe. Why? Rick asked, walking over annoyed. Dave, we got to push back. We're late. Captain Anderson turned to Rick, his eyes wide. You idiot, he hissed. Do you know who you just handcuffed? Rick shrugged. Some unruly passenger. Names. Marina or something. Marina? The captain repeated. Yes, Marina Sterling. Clears throat. Rick stared blankly. So the captain's voice rose to a shout, silencing the gate area. She isn't a passenger, Rick. She owns the damn airline. That is the CEO of Meridian Airways. Silence. Absolute suffocating silence. Bella, standing at the podium, felt the blood drain from her face so fast it made her dizzy. She dropped the scanner. It hit the floor with a loud clatter. Marina slowly turned back to face them. She didn't smile. She just raised an eyebrow. Captain Anderson, Marina said, her voice cool and composed despite the cuffs. It's good to see you again. I apologize for the delay. It seems I've been denied boarding. The silence that had fallen over gate K-12 was heavy, almost suffocating. It was the kind of silence usually reserved for the Aftermath of a car crash. The only sound was the hum of the airport ventilation and the frantic, shallow breathing of Rick Salinger. Captain Anderson stood like a shield between Marina and the police officers. His face was flushed, veins bulging in his neck. He looked at Sergeant Miller with a mixture of disbelief and command. "Take those cuffs off," Anderson ordered, his voice low and dangerous. "Right now." Sergeant Miller, a veteran officer who had dealt with drunks, thieves, and belligerent passengers for 15 years, looked down at his own hands. They were shaking. He looked at the woman he had just arrested, the woman in the hoodie and leggings. He looked at her eyes. They weren't the eyes of a trespasser. They were the eyes of someone who signed the paychecks of everyone in the building. I didn't know," Miller stammered, fumbling for his key. "We were told." The manager said. "Unlock them," Marina said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a laser. She didn't move. She didn't cringe. She stood tall, her posture perfect, despite the metal restraints binding her arms behind her back. The key clicked, the ratchets released, the metal fell away. Marina brought her hands forward. She rolled her wrists slowly. There were deep red indentations where the steel had bitten into her skin. She stared at the marks for a long moment, letting everyone else stare at them, too. She wanted the image burned into their retinas. The CEO of Meridian Airways, marked like a criminal by her own employees. She looked up at the crowd. The passengers were no longer murmuring. Clear's throat, they were filming. Dozens of phones were held aloft, capturing every micro-expression. "Keep recording," Marina said to the crowd, her voice clear. "I want you to document everything that happens next." Then she turned to the podium. Bellance was still standing there, but the arrogance had leaked out of her, replaced by a pale, trembling fair. However, Bella was a survivor. She was a bully who had ruled Terminal 3 for 2 decades. She wasn't going to go down without trying to spin the narrative. "Captain Anderson," Bella said, her voice wavering into a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "Surely you're mistaken. This is just a girl. Look at her. Does she look like a CEO? It's a prank, right? Is this undercover, boss?" She looked around for cameras, desperate for a producer to jump out. "It is not a prank, Miss Vance," Marina said, stepping closer to the podium. She moved with a slow, predatory grace. "And my appearance is irrelevant. Although it is fascinating to see that Meridian's dress code policy apparently overrides the law in your mind." Rick, the manager, tried to intervene. He stepped forward, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. "Melbourne, Sterling, look, if we had known it was you, obviously protocols would be different. We were just following security measures for unknown threats. We can fix this. I'll upgrade you to first class right now. Seat 1A on the house." Marina looked at Rick. She didn't blink. "Seat 1A is already taken, Rick, by a paying customer, and I don't want an upgrade. I want answers." She walked around the side of the podium. Bella instinctively stepped back, clutching her scarf as if it were armor. Marina didn't even look at her. She walked straight to the computer terminal, the very one Bella had used to void her ticket. "You said the cameras were down, Rick," Marina said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She didn't need a password. She had a master override code that only 3 people in the company possessed. The screen flickered. A new window popped up. "System diagnostics, Terminal 3 cameras. Online recording active." Marina turned the monitor so Rick and the police sergeant could see it online. "Since 041's, you lied to a police officer to facilitate a false arrest." Sergeant Miller's face went hard. He turned to Rick. "You told me they were down for maintenance. You filed a false report." "I thought they were," Rick stammered, his eyes darting around. "I must have been misinformed by it." "And the ticket?" Marina tapped another key. The transaction log appeared. Log ID 999182. User B for once. Action manual void. Reason code other. Marina looked at Bella. "You didn't void it for non-payment." You didn't void it for security. You used the other code which requires a manual note. Let's see what you wrote. Marina clicked the entry. The notes field expanded on the screen. Note. Pack's attitude needs lesson. A gasp went through the front row of the crowd. Mrs. Higgins, the elderly lady, with the cane, pointed a shaking finger at Bella. I knew it. She does it on purpose. Marina read the note out loud, her voice dripping with ice. Needs lesson. You destroyed a federal travel document and wasted police resources because you felt a paying customer needed a lesson. Clears throat. Bella's face turned a blotchy red. The fear was turning into defensive anger. You were rude. You threw your credit card at me. You people come in here thinking you own the place. I do own the place, Marina interrupted, her voice rising for the first time, echoing off the high ceilings of the terminal. I literally own this airline, Bella. But that is beside the point. Even if I were a janitor, even if I were unemployed, even if I were flying for the first time in my life, you do not have the right to humiliate, degrade, and rob passengers because you are having a bad day. Marina turned to the police sergeant. Officer Miller, I would like to file charges. The sergeant blinked. Charges against who? Against Belle Lance for destruction of property and larceny, Marina said calmly. She took payment for a bag, then destroyed the ticket attached to that service without issuing a refund. That is theft. And against Rick Salinger for filing a false police report and obstruction of justice. Rick's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. We work for you. You can't arrest your own employees. Former employees, Marina corrected. But we'll get to that in a moment. Right now, I want to know one thing. She looked at the long line of passengers, tired, frustrated, scared. How long? Marina asked. How long has this been going on? How many people have you done this to? Bella crossed her arms, looking away, her chin jutted out. In defiance. I run a tight ship. I keep this airline safe. Safe from who? Marina asked. From mothers with milk bottles? From grandmothers with canes? Marina turned back to the computer. I'm going to find out. Captain Anderson. Delay the flight. Mom, Anderson asked. Delay the flight. Marina repeated. Nobody leaves this gate until I get to the bottom of this. I am declaring a Code 0 operational hold on gate K12. Code 0. It was a nuclear option in airline terms. It meant a complete freeze of operations for a security or safety investigation. The boards above the desk flashed red. Flight 389 status. Hold. Marina pulled a chair over from the break area and sat down behind the podium right next to a terrified Bella. Now, Marina said, cracking her knuckles. Let's open the archives. The atmosphere at gate K12 had shifted from a scene of public shaming to an impromptu courtroom drama. The passengers, realizing they weren't going anywhere, but were witnessing something historic, settled in. Some sat on their suitcases, others leaned against the glass. The live stream numbers on the phones of the teenagers in the front row were skyrocketing into the millions. Meridian CEO was already trending on Twitter. Marina sat at the high podium, her fingers blurring across the keys. She wasn't just looking at today's data. She was digging into the ghost logs. In Meridian's system, when a gate agent deleted a complaint or a booking, it wasn't truly gone. Clears throated. Went into a shadow server for compliance. Auditing, a server almost nobody checked. But Marina had built the data architecture for this system 3 years ago, when she was the VP of logistics. She knew exactly where the bodies were buried. Rick, Marina said, not looking up. Come stand here. You too, Bella. They obeyed, moving like children called to the principal's office. Sergeant Miller and his rookie partner stood behind them, hands resting on their belts, ensuring they didn't bolt. Bella Vance, Marina read from the screen. Employee ID 4402. You've been with Meridian for 22 years. That's right, Bella said, finding a shred of her old arrogance. 22 years of loyal service. I have a pension. You can't just toss me out because of a misunderstanding. Let's look at your service record. Marina said. Officially, You have 0 complaints in the last 5 years. Remarkable, Bella smirked. I told you. People love me. However, Marina continued, hitting the enter key with a sharp clack. In the shadow logs, I see 412 soft deletions of customer feedback. Forms linked to your terminal login. The color drained from Bella's face. That's a glitch. Is it? Marina clicked. To file. December 3rd, passenger Sarah Jenkins. Complaint. Agent Vance mocked my stutter and threw my boarding pass on the floor. Status deleted by manager R. Salinger. Rick flinched as if he'd been slapped. Marina clicked another. November 15th, passenger David Okoro. Complaint. Agent Vance told me I couldn't afford business class and forced me to wait until the end of boarding despite my Zone 1 ticket. Status deleted by manager R. Salinger. Marina spun the screen around so the passengers could see the wall of red text. Hundreds of deleted incidents. You weren't running a tight ship, Bella, Marina said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. You were running a tyranny, and Rick was your cleaner. He's my brother-in-law, Bella blurted out, then clamped her hand over her mouth. Oh, Marina nodded. Nepotism. The final piece of the puzzle. She stood up, looking at the two of them with utter disgust. Do you know how much money we spend on marketing, on trying to tell the world that Meridian is a family? And here you are treating our customers, the people who pay your salary, like garbage. You targeted me today because of how I looked. You assumed I was powerless. You assumed I was poor. And you assumed that, even if I complained, Rick would bury it. It was just a bad call. Rick pleaded, sweating profusely. Ms. Sterling, please. I have a mortgage. I have kids. And so did the people you humiliated. Marina countered. What about their mortgages? What about the baggage fees you extorted? Speaking of which, Marina pulled up the financial audit for the gate. You charged me $55 for a carry-on, Marina said. But the system shows you logged it as a gate check. Courtesy free of charge. The silence was absolute. So, Marina continued, leaning in close to Bella. Where did my $55 go, Bella? Because it didn't go to the airline. Bella was shaking. She looked at her, purse tucked under the counter. Marina followed her gaze. Officer Miller. The sergeant stepped forward. Mom, I have probable cause to search that bag based on the evidence of theft. No, Bella shrieked, grabbing her purse. You can't. That's personal property. Hand it over, Ms. Vance, the sergeant ordered. Reluctantly, sobbing, Bella handed the bag to the officer. He opened it. Inside, nestled among tissues and lipstick, was a thick envelope. He pulled it out. It was stuffed with cash. 20s, 50s, 10s. I count at least $500 here, the sergeant said, just from this morning's shift. It's tips, Bella wailed. Passengers give me tips. Gate agents don't get tips. Captain Anderson shouted from the doorway, unable to stay silent. That's extortion money. Marina looked at the cash, then at Bella. The pettiness of it made her sick. It wasn't a grand corporate conspiracy. It was just greedy, small-minded people abusing a tiny amount of power to hurt others and steal crumbs. This ends now, Marina said. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. The call was answered on the first ring. This is Marcus Thorne, VP of Airport Operations. A deep voice met over the speakerphone. Marcus, it's Marina, she said. Madam CEO, we saw the social media alerts. We are seeing videos of you in handcuffs. What is going on? I'm dispatching a crisis team. Don't send a crisis team, Marcus. Marina said, send HR and send the legal department. I am at Gate K-12 in Chicago. I want you to formally terminate Rick Salinger and Bella Vance immediately. Causes gross misconduct, theft, fraud, and discrimination. I want their badges deactivated within 60 seconds. Understood, Marcus said. I'm doing it now. Access revoked in 3, 2, 1. Behind the desk, the computer terminal suddenly went black. Rick's radio let out a sharp beep and went dead. The card reader on the door flashed red. You're fired, Marina said, hanging up the phone. Rick slumped against the wall, head in his hands. Bella, however, went from sobbing to pure venom. You think you're so smart? Bella spat, her face twisted into an ugly mask. You've ruined my life over a stupid ticket. You're a monster. No, Bella, Marina said softly, picking up the pieces of the torn boarding pass from the floor. She held them up. I'm the customer, and the customer is always right. She turned to the police. Officer, please remove these trespassers from my airport. As the officers moved to handcuff Bella and Rick, real handcuffs this time, not for show, a slow clapping started. It was Mrs. Higgins. Then the businessmen joined in. Then the teenagers. Within seconds, the entire gate area and the hundreds of people watching from the concourse erupted into thunderous applause. Bella screamed as she was dragged away, her heels scraping across the blue carpet she had ruled like a tyrant. I'll sue you all. Rick just walked in silence, head down, the shame radiating off him, as they disappeared down the jetway tunnel towards the police cruiser waiting on the tarmac. To avoid the crowd in the terminal, Marina slumped slightly against the podium. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her exhausted. Captain Anderson walked over and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Ms. Sterling, clears throat. Are you okay? Marina took a deep breath. She looked at her wrist, still red. She looked at the crowd of passengers who were now looking at her not as a victim or a criminal, but as a hero. I'm fine, Captain, she said, straightening her hoodie. But we have a plane to catch, and I believe I have a lot of apologies to make to these passengers. She grabbed the microphone. The feedback squealed slightly, then settled. Ladies and gentlemen of Flight 389, Marina began, her voice warm and genuine. My name is Marina Sterling, and I am the CEO of Meridian Airways. I am so incredibly sorry for what you witnessed today. The crowd cheered again. But words are cheap, Marina continued. And Bella tore up my ticket, so I assume she's torn up others. Today, we are going to make things right. But before we board, I have one more call to make. She looked at the camera of the nearest teenager filming her. I need to call my father, she said to the room, but really to the board of directors watching the live stream, and tell him that Project Ground Level is officially a go. But the drama wasn't over. As the cheers died down, a man in a sharp Italian suit pushed his way through the crowd. He was flanked by two lawyers. It was Clifford Sterling, Marina's father, and the chairman of the board. He had been in Chicago for a separate meeting, and he had seen the news. He didn't look happy. Marina, Clifford had shouted, his voice booming over the commotion. What the hell is this circus? Marina froze. The hard karma for Bella was over, but the battle for her own survival as CEO was just beginning. Clifford Sterling didn't walk. He marched. He was a man carved from the granite of 1980s Wall Street. Silver-haired, immaculately tailored in bespoke brony eye, and radiating an aura of absolute control. Behind him trailed two lawyers, Harrison and Cole, who looked more like undertakers than legal counsel. The crowd at gate K-12 parted instantly. Even the police officers straightened up. Clifford Sterling wasn't just the chairman of the board. In Chicago aviation circles, he was a god. Clear the gate, Clifford barked at Rick, who was currently being handcuffed by the rookie officer. Clifford paused, blinking at the sight of his station manager in irons. He ignored it. Everyone, clear the area. The show is over. He turned his blazing blue eyes onto Marina. My office now, or the car. Just get out of the public eye. Marina stood her ground. She adjusted her hoodie, a stark contrast to her father's three-piece suit. No, Dad. We are not going to the office. I have a flight to catch. You are not getting on that plane, Clifford hissed, stepping into her personal space. He lowered his voice, but the microphones on the nearby smartphones picked up every word. Do you have any idea what you've done? As Meridian meltdown is trending globally, I have shareholders calling me asking why the CEO is in handcuffs. You have humiliated this family. I didn't humiliate the family, Marina replied, her voice steady. Your employees did. I Just turn on the lights. You provoked them. Clifford counted, his face reening. You played a game, Marina. Project Ground Level. It's childish. You don't run a Fortune 500 company by playing dress-up and pranking the staff. You run it from the boardroom. You just destroyed the career of a 20-year veteran agent over a baggage fee. She was stealing. Clifford. Marina shot back, dropping the dad. She was extorting passengers. She was deleting complaints. She was running a racket. And Rick was covering it up. Did you know about the shadow logs? Did you? Clifford scoffed. Operational noise. Every airline has bad apples. You handle it quietly. You fire them on a Friday at 5 p.m. with a severance package and an NDA. You don't arrest them on a live stream. You've clears throat, opened us up to lawsuits. The union will have a field day. Let them. Clears throat. Marina said, I want the union to see this. I want every employee to see this because if they are honest, they have nothing to fear. But if they are like Bella, they should be terrified. Clifford turned to his lawyers. Get the PR team to kill the feed. Cut the terminal Wi-Fi if you have to. You can't do that, sir. Harrison, the senior lawyer, whispered nervously. That's illegal. Clifford turned back to the crowd, raising his hands in a fake politician-style gesture. Folks, we apologize for the disruption. As a gesture of goodwill, everyone will receive a $200 flight voucher. Now, please put the phones away. No, shouted Mrs. Higgins from the front row. Clifford froze. He looked at the frail old woman. Excuse me, we don't want your vouchers, Mrs. Higgins yelled, shaking her cane. We want her, she pointed at Marina. She stood up for us. That nasty woman treated me like dirt for years. She made me check my medicine bag once. Marina stopped her. Marina is the only one who cares. Yeah, a young man in a heavy coat shouted. Your veteran agent made me miss my sister's wedding because she oversold the flight and kicked me off because I looked like I could wait. Marina is a hero. Let her fly. Let her fly. The chant started low, then swelled. Let her fly. Let her fly. Clifford looked around, stunned. He was used to boardrooms where people feared him. Clear's throat. He wasn't used to the raw, angry energy of the American public. He looked at the phones. He saw the comments rolling in on the live stream visible on a teenager's screen. Fire the old guy. Team Marina. Marina. For president. Marina stepped closer to her father. You built this airline on efficiency, Dad, and I respect that. But you forgot the people. You let a culture of bullying fester because it was efficient to ignore complaints. Look at them. They aren't angry at me. They're angry at you. Clifford looked at Marina. He saw the marks on her wrists. He saw the fire in her eyes. For the first time in her life, he didn't see his little girl. He saw a leader. Harrison, the lawyer, checked his phone and gasped, Mr. Sterling, stock update. Not now, Clifford snapped. Sir, you need to see this, Harrison insisted, shoving the phone in Clifford's face. Since the arrest, since Marina's speech about cleaning house, Meridian stock is up 12%. Clifford grabbed the phone. He stared at the green line shooting upward. The market wasn't reacting to the scandal. It was reacting to the solution. Investors loved a CEO who actually fixed problems. Clifford lowered the phone. He looked at Bella, who was being shoved into the back of a police car outside the window. He looked at Marina. He straightened his tie. He took a deep breath. Harrison, Clifford said quietly. Yes, sir. Draft a statement. Full support for the interim CEO. Meridian Airways has zero tolerance for corruption. We are launching a full internal audit led by. He paused, looking at Marina. Led by Marina Sterling. Clears throat. Marina exhaled, her shoulders dropping an inch. Clifford reached out and awkwardly patted her shoulder. You're still in economy, though? Company policy. No free upgrades. Marina smiled, a genuine, tired smile. I wouldn't have it any other way. But Dad? Yes. I'm waiving the baggage fees for everyone on this flight. Clifford groaned, but he stepped aside. Get on the plane, Marina Boarding Flight 389 was unlike any process in aviation history. There was no Bella screaming at people to size their bags. There was no Rick sighing at the door. Instead, there was Captain Anderson personally greeting every single passenger at the jet bridge door, shaking hands. Welcome aboard. Thank you for your patience. Welcome aboard. When Marina walked onto the plane, the applause started again. It began in the first-class cabin, the very people Bella had pandered to and rolled back like a wave into economy. Marina walked past the wide leather seats of first class. She walked past the extra legroom of Economy Plus. She walked all the way to row 34, seat B, the middle seat. Excuse me, she said politely to the man in 34A and the woman in 34C. Are you kidding? The man in 34A laughed, jumping up. Take the window, please. I'll sit in the aisle. No, really, Marina said. I bought the middle. I sit in the middle. She stowed her backpack, the one that had started it all, under the seat in front of her. As she buckled in, the captain's voice came over the intercom. Clears throat, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Anderson. We are currently number 1 for takeoff. I have just been informed by our CEO, who is seated back in row 34, that the in-flight Wi-Fi is complimentary for this journey, and all beverages, including alcohol, are on the house. A cheer went up that shook the overhead bins. As the plane climbed to 30,000 feet, the atmosphere was electric. But for Marina, the real work was happening on her phone. She was connected to the secure server again. Clears throat, the hard karma wasn't finished with. Bellance. An email popped up from the Meridian legal team. Subject, urgent. Discovery. At Terminal 3. Marina opened it. Her eyes widened. After Bella's arrest, the airport police had done a standard sweep of her locker. In the break room, they hadn't just found cash. They had found a notebook. Bella, in her arrogance, had kept a ledger. It wasn't just baggage fees. The notes detailed a priority pass scheme where Bella was selling empty first-class seats to non-revenue passengers for cash under the table, bypassing the manifest. This was a federal crime. It was wire fraud. It was a violation of TSA security protocols. But it got worse. The ledger had names. Rick Salinger, 2 other gate agents, a baggage handler. It was a ring. They had been skimming roughly $15,000 a month from the airline and its passengers. Marina forwarded the email to the FBI field office in Chicago. Sent. She looked out the window at the clouds. Bella thought she was going to get fired and maybe sued for a few thousand. She had no idea that by the time this plane landed in Miami, the FBI would be waiting to upgrade her charges to racketeering. 2 hours into the flight, Mrs. Higgins, who was sitting in 35C, tapped Marina on the shoulder. Dear, Mrs. Higgins asked. Yes, Mrs. Higgins. I just saw the news on my iPad. Is it true? Marina leaned over to look. The headline on CNN read, Ever ring. Busted. FBI raids homes of Meridian employees following CEO's sting operation. The article detailed that agents were currently removing boxes of evidence from Bella Vance's home in suburban Chicago. They had found stolen luggage, bags that Bella had claimed were lost in the system, which she had actually taken home to resell on eBay. Jewelry, electronics, designer clothes. She stole my grandson's PlayStation. Mrs. Higgins whispered, tears in her eyes. Last Christmas, she told me the bag was lost in Denver. She had it. We're going to get it back, Marina promised, taking the old woman's hand. Or I will buy him a new one. I promise. You're a good girl, Mrs. Higgins said. You're going to fix this company. Marina looked around the cabin. People were talking to each other. The tension that usually defined air travel. The fear of the gate agents, the stress of the bins was gone. They felt safe. They felt seen. For the first time since taking the job, Marina didn't feel like an imposter. She felt like the CEO. 3 months later, the rebranding of Meridian Airways was subtle but powerful. The logo remained the same, but the tagline changed to Meridian, People First. Marina Sterling sat in her office in Miami looking at the monitor on her wall. It showed a live feed of Gate K-12 in Chicago. The podium had been lowered to remove the physical barrier between agents and passengers. The new gate agent, a young man named David, was smiling as he helped a family reorganize their bags to avoid a fee rather than charging them. Project Ground Level had become company policy. Every executive from the CFO to the VP of Marketing was now required to work one shift a month in a frontline role, baggage handling, gate agent, or customer service. The culture of empathy had replaced the culture of metrics. As for Bella Vance and Rick Salinger, their story had ended in a federal courtroom because of the priority pass scheme and the theft of luggage, which crossed state lines, making it a federal offense. The judge showed no mercy. The video of Bella tearing the ticket was played during the sentencing. It showed her malice. It showed her lack of remorse. Bella was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for wire fraud and embezzlement, plus restitution of $150,000 to the airline and the passengers she had victimized. Rick, who turned state's evidence against her to save himself, still received 18 months and a lifetime ban from working in the aviation industry. Marina turned away from the screen and picked up her bag. It was the same battered backpack. She was flying to New York today for a UN summit on ethical business practices. She walked out of her office, down the hall, and took a cab to the airport. She didn't take the private limo. At the airport, she walked up to the kiosk. She was wearing a blazer this time, but she still flew economy. "Good morning, Miss Sterling." The agent at the counter beamed. She didn't look terrified. She looked proud to be talking to her boss. "Good morning, Sarah," Marina said. "How's the flow today?" "Smooth," Sarah said. "Oh, and the system flagged a potentially oversized bag for the gentleman in line behind you." Marina tensed. And I helped him gate check it for free because the flight isn't full. Sarah smiled. "Who's happy?" "We're happy." Marina smiled back. "Perfect. Carry on." She walked down the jet bridge, the sound of her sneakers soft on the metal. She had learned the hard way that power wasn't about who sat in first class. Power was about who had the courage to tear down the walls that separated the front of the plane from the back. Marina took her seat in 34B. She closed her eyes and listened to the safety briefing. "Meridian Airways, we're glad you're here." And for the first time in a long time, Marina knew they really meant it. What a ride. Marina Sterling didn't just get her ticket reprinted. She rewrote the entire rule book. Bella and Rick thought they were untouchable because they had a little bit of power, but they forgot the most important rule of business. Never underestimate the person standing in front of you. Marina proved that leadership isn't about suits and private jets. It's about empathy, justice, and being willing to get in the trenches. Bella is now sitting in a cell instead of a gate podium, and Meridian Airways is flying high. If you loved seeing this instant karma and justice served cold, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And if you want more stories about arrogant employees getting put in their place by undercover bosses, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. What would you have done if you were Marina? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next